Chapter 32. We stepped quietly into our room, the soft click of the door closing behind us sealing away the bustle of the day. I eased down onto the bed first, sinking into the soft mattress with a tired sigh. Before I could fully unwind, Seal shifted beside me, her presence drawing closer like a magnet. Without hesitation, she leaned in, her lips pressing gently against mine in a kiss that was both reassuring and intimate. The softness of her touch grounded me, melting away the day's stress just a little. Slowly, I settled onto her lap, the smooth curve of her legs supporting my weight comfortably. The steady warmth beneath me was like an anchor, steady and calming, while her hands came up to lightly rest at my sides. One hand moved up to gently pat my head, her fingers tracing soothing circles through my hair, a gesture so tender it made my chest tighten with quiet affection. I tilted my head back to look up at her face, catching the soft glow in her eyes and the faintest, knowing smile playing on her lips. I sighed deeply, letting the quiet moment stretch between us. That was tough, I murmured, voice low and honest, feeling safe and unguarded in her presence. The world outside could wait. Here, like this, everything was simple and true. Still resting on Ciel's lap, I let out a long, contented breath as her fingers threaded gently through my hair. Each stroke was patient and soothing, her touch so familiar now it felt like it belonged there like I did. Her thighs made the perfect pillow, firm yet soft, and the warmth of her body surrounded me in a way that made the world feel quieter. I shifted slightly, tilting my head to look up at her face. She gazed down at me with calm red eyes, brushing a few strands of hair away from my cheek with a fondness that made my heart flutter. "Hey, Ciel," I murmured, my voice softer than usual, "how were you able to speak to me during the meeting with Yuki? I thought you could only do that when you were inside me." Her hand stilled briefly, just enough to make me notice, before resuming its rhythm. "I am always within you, my love," she replied, her voice tender. "This form beside you now is a projection of myself, a physical body made for your sake. Like Celine, but my true self never leaves you. I'm always with you, because that is where I belong." My breath caught slightly at her words. She said it so simply, yet it hit me like a soft punch to the heart. "You're always there," I echoed, a little breathless, my fingers curling against her skirt. "Even when we're apart?" Ciel nodded, her hand pausing to cradle my cheek. "There has never been a moment I wasn't with you. Even if no one else sees me. I'm part of you. I always will be. As your partner. As your first wife." My face warmed, and I couldn't stop the small, bashful smile that pulled at my lips. That word still made my heart flutter when she said it like that. "Then I'm glad," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I don't want to be without you. Not ever." "You won't be," she replied, leaning down and pressing a kiss to my temple, soft, loving, and unmistakably hers. "Not in this life or the next." I closed my eyes, letting the comfort of her presence sink into me fully, the way her fingers moved against my scalp, the rhythm of her breath above me, and the certainty in her words. This quiet moment between us felt like a promise. A promise I never wanted to end. I slowly sat up from Ciel's lap, stretching just a little before turning toward her with a quiet smile. "We should probably change. It's been a long day." Ciel gave a soft nod, her expression gentle. "As you wish, master." A few moments later, we had both changed. Ciel now wore a deep midnight blue sleeping gown, sleeveless with delicate golden embroidery tracing the neckline and hem. The fabric shimmered faintly in the soft lamplight, elegant yet understated, and it clung just enough to show her graceful figure as she sat with her legs folded to the side. I had changed into something more comfortable too. I slipped into the lilac nightie, the fabric cool and featherlight against my skin. It clung softly to my body just enough to trace my shape without feeling tight. The thin straps rested on my shoulders, and the neckline dipped lower than usual, edged with a touch of lace that brushed against my chest with every breath. The material was smooth, almost too smooth, like it was made to tease the air itself. As I moved, the hem danced around my upper thighs, and the light caught on the sheer fabric in just the right places. I could feel how it hinted at more than it revealed, a whisper rather than a statement. It wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be. It was the kind of nightwear that made me feel both comfortable and aware of every inch of myself. Relaxed, yet subtly bold, like I was wrapped in confidence and silk at the same time. This time, I curled up and gently rested my head on her lap. She looked peaceful like this. One hand rested gently on my shoulder while the other stroked my hair with slow, soothing movements. I let out a long breath, not from fatigue, but from the mental effort of keeping a perfect mask through my meeting with Yuki. "That guy," I murmured. "Yuki. He talks like he's harmless, but... Ciel's hand paused for a moment, then resumed its rhythm. You sensed it too. I tilted my head slightly, peeking up at her. Yeah, he was too smooth. Every word was measured, like he was watching how I'd react. Ciel nodded. He was. His posture, his expressions, even the spacing of his words, it was all deliberate. A performance, honed and practiced. I knew it, I sighed. When I tried sensing his aura, I could feel it layers. Not magic, exactly. Just, a feeling like I was being kept outside something. That's because you were, she confirmed. He was masking multiple unique skills. I didn't analyze them in full, doing so might have tipped him off. But the complexity was above standard. More than just a guild official should have. I gave a tired smile. So he wanted to keep me guessing. Act friendly, offer support, make me drop my guard. He misjudged you, Master, she said softly. You stayed calm and wary. I was impressed. I turned more into her lap and smiled. I've dealt with enough schemers to spot one playing the long game. We'll keep watching him, Ciel said, brushing her fingers gently along my temple. For now, we remain cautious. I nodded slowly. Yeah, he's hiding something, and I don't like being played. A small silence settled in. Her hand kept stroking my hair, slow, warm, and rhythmic. Every touch eased away a little more of the weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. I'm glad you were with me, I murmured. Even if I couldn't see you. I'm always with you, she said, her voice soft and affectionate. Always. She leaned forward and kissed my forehead. And I meant it earlier. You handled everything perfectly. Always my beloved wife. My breath hitched. MMGH. I instantly buried my face into her lap, cheeks flaming. Don't just say that without warning. Her hand paused only to gently adjust a stray lock of hair that had fallen into my eyes, then continued petting. She didn't need to say anything else. I could feel her smile in the way her fingers moved. The room was quiet, bathed in the soft, muted glow of the lantern. My eyelids grew heavier with each passing second, and before long, her heartbeat was the only thing I could hear. Steady, warm, familiar. I let myself sink into her and allowed the day to slip away. And in the silence of her arms, I drifted off to sleep. The golden rays of morning filtered softly through the curtains, casting delicate patterns across the room. The air was still and quiet, peaceful in a way only the earliest hours could be. I stirred faintly, my cheek pressing against something warm and soft. Wait, still on her lap. Blinking my eyes open slowly, I looked up and sure enough, Ciel was still sitting exactly where she had been last night, gently brushing her fingers through my hair with the same serene tenderness. Ciel, you stayed like this all night. My voice came out as a sleepy murmur, thick with drowsiness. She looked down at me with a faint smile. Good morning, Master. You didn't wake me. I sat up slowly, rubbing my eyes. You just let me sleep on you the whole night. You needed the rest, she said simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. But that couldn't have been comfortable. I trailed off, glancing guiltily at how perfectly poised she still sat. It was fine, she replied, voice low and warm. Having you in my arms was more than enough comfort. My face heated. You'll make me feel bad if you say it like that. She leaned in just slightly, brushing her lips against my forehead. Then feel loved instead. I covered my face with both hands, letting out a small, embarrassed groan as I leaned back onto her lap again. You always say things like that with such a straight face. I mean them with all my heart, she whispered. I peeked through my fingers at her. Her expression was gentle, open, still the same Ciel I knew, but there was something human in the warmth of her smile. Something unmistakably tender. I really don't deserve you, I mumbled. You're wrong, Master, she replied, brushing her fingers through my hair once more. You're the only one I could ever belong to. The room stayed quiet for a little longer, the moment stretching gently between us. Then, with a reluctant breath, I shifted. All right, we should probably get moving. The guild's going to be waiting. Yes, she nodded. We stood together, stretching a little. I reached for the soft blue tunic and skirt I'd prepared, simple but elegant, with gold thread tracing subtle patterns along the hem. Ciel wore a neat navy blue dress with long sleeves and a modest collar, buttoned down the front and cinched at the waist with a brown belt bearing a bronze clasp. Subtle embroidery lined the hem of the skirt, adding a quiet elegance, while dark tights and short leather boots grounded the look with a practical touch. Her soft blue hair was tied back with a dark ribbon, falling neatly down her back as she stood poised beneath the warm glow of a nearby lamp. Before we stepped out, I reached for her hand, lacing my fingers with hers. She glanced at me, then gently squeezed back. And just like that, the day began with warmth still lingering in my chest from the night before. After having breakfast back at the inn, Seal and I decided to spend the late morning exploring the city. The streets of Ingrasia were full of life, colorful banners fluttering above storefronts, the hum of merchants calling out, and adventurers strolling by in gear that ranged from humble to extravagant. We stayed close, hand in hand as we moved through the capital. Seal walked beside me, tall and composed as ever, her face concealed behind her usual mask now that we were out in public. She drew attention without meaning to, elegant, regal, and slightly intimidating. Eventually, we found ourselves near the Great Colosseum, its towering walls looming proudly in the distance. Even from here, I could hear the distant roar of the crowd and the clang of weapons inside. The energy of it pulsed faintly through the stone streets. "Let's take a break," I suggested. Seal gave a small nod, and we stepped into a small cafe tucked near one of the side alleys, clean and stylish, with a quiet charm. The kind of place you could easily miss unless you were really looking. The moment we stepped in, I sensed something a little different. The man behind the counter, neatly dressed and welcoming, with distinctly Japanese features, greeted us with a warm welcome. Another otherworlder, huh? I kept that in mind as we ordered a pair of berry tarts and took our seats at a shaded table just outside. I leaned back in my chair, watching the passers-by with a small smile. "Nice weather," I said casually. Seal simply nodded. She was quiet, but not in a cold way, more like peaceful. Ciel's voice was soft but teasing. "Master, this feels like a date, doesn't it?" I froze, caught off guard by the comment. My cheeks flushed a deep red, and I found myself unable to answer. She took a slow bite of her tart, then looked up and said with a hint of mischief, "If you enjoyed it, we could do this more often." I finally found my voice, a small, shy smile tugging at my lips. "Maybe, it's fine every now and then. You should try this one," she said, casually offering her a bite from my fork. I hesitated for only a second, then leaned forward slightly and accepted the bite. After breakfast and a brief stop at that cafe, we made our way to the library, not for leisure, but for research. I wasn't entirely sure what I'd be dealing with at the Freedom Academy, and Seal suggested it'd be smart to brush up on the region's politics, cultural norms, and the latest developments within the Western nations. I agreed. Even if I was technically just a guest teacher, it wouldn't hurt to be prepared. We entered the library and quickly found ourselves surrounded by rows of neatly kept shelves. The scent of old paper and quiet air gave the place a calming, focused atmosphere. We chose a table in the corner and began sifting through various tomes and scrolls. Seal silently retrieved books as I read, occasionally pointing out useful sections or summarizing relevant content with her usual grace. I could tell she already knew a lot of it. She was probably just letting me take the lead this time. Hours passed like minutes. We studied topics ranging from noble power structures to the education system's hierarchy, even diving into magical laws and adventurer licensing systems across nations. It wasn't thrilling, but it was necessary. I glanced up occasionally, watching Seal flip through her own volume. Her expression behind the mask was unreadable, but her calm aura and steady presence were comforting. At some point in the late afternoon, I stretched, noticing the sky beginning to darken through the window. A librarian gently announced that the facility would be closing soon. I stacked the last of our books with a quiet sigh. "Well, I guess that's enough for today." Seal nodded beside me. "We've gathered most of what we need. I'll catalog the useful parts for later reference." "Of course you will," I murmured with a small smile. "Thanks, Seal." She paused, then gave a tiny nod. "Always, Master." With that, we returned the books and stepped out into the cooling evening air. The morning after our date, we dove straight back into gathering information. Seal and I spent long hours in the library, quietly flipping through books and scrolls, piecing together everything we could find about the Freedom Academy and Ingrasia's political climate. The silence between us was comfortable, broken only by the occasional soft murmur when one of us found something important. As the days went by, we ventured out more cautiously. Seal insisted on inspecting the city's defenses and the nearby patrol routes. Her focus was sharp, and I admired how seriously she took every detail. I stayed close. We visited the cafe again, savoring more of those sweet treats. She kept calling me my wife, just a little too often, and every time, I'd freeze, heart fluttering, cheeks warm. And yet, each time made the moment feel a little more intimate, a little more ours. Back in the room by the 5th evening, we laid side by side, quietly reviewing the notes and preparing ourselves mentally for the days ahead. The city outside hummed softly, but here, with her fingers tangled in my hair and the warmth of her close by, everything felt calm and steady. I whispered softly, "I'm lucky to have you." Her voice, gentle and warm, came in reply, "And I am yours, always." "So, tomorrow I'm going to meet Yuki again," I said. "He'll take me to the Freedom Academy, introduce me to the staff and everything. I start teaching the day after." Ciel's eyes darkened slightly as she replied quietly, "We still don't know much about Yuki. There's something he's hiding, his skills, his true intentions. We have to stay alert." I sighed softly. "I know, but just because he hid his skills and stretched the truth a little doesn't mean he's hostile. Maybe he's worried. After all, I am a monster. And he is the Grand Master of the guild." Ciel nodded thoughtfully. "That might be true, but we still have to be careful until we find out what he's actually after." I narrowed my eyes in thought, fingers steepled under my chin as I leaned back slightly. "How about this?" I said slowly, a spark of intent flashing behind my voice. "We give him a chance. An opportunity to make his move, if that's what he's planning. I'll let my guard down just a little. Just enough for someone like him to think it's safe to act." Ciel's eyes sharpened behind her mask, catching the shift in my tone. "You mean, bait him?" I nodded. "Exactly. If he really is hiding something dangerous, he won't be able to resist a good opening. But if he backs off or stays clean despite the chance, then maybe I've misjudged him." Ciel paused, then slowly nodded. "It's risky, but clever. And subtle. It forces him to reveal his hand without confrontation." I gave a faint grin. "Just enough rope to see if he plans to tie a knot or hang himself with it." She let out a soft chuckle. "Very well, Master. I agree. This could give us the clarity we need." My expression turned resolute. "Until then, we play along." I tapped a finger against my leg, thinking aloud. Quote. "Then how about this, we cancel your clone." Ciel tilted her head slightly. "Go on. If you disappear," I continued, "and return to being inside me like usual, it'll look like I'm staying in Ingrasia alone. At least, that's what he'll think." A slow smile curved on my lips. "It'll make me seem vulnerable. Like I don't have backup. If Yuki's really planning something, he might make his move." Her answer came without hesitation. "A sound strategy. I approve. I'll cancel this projection tomorrow morning." "Thanks." I leaned back, gazing at the ceiling. "Let's give him the perfect opportunity. If he's got an angle, we'll see it." The next day, I woke early in the modest inn room where I was staying. Soft morning light slipped through the curtains, casting gentle patterns across the bed. After freshening up, I changed into the deep blue coat trimmed with silver at the cuffs, the temporary uniform issued to guest instructors. It fit well, not too formal, not too stiff. Ciel's external form was gone now, but as always, she remained quietly present within me, calm, steady, and attentive. "Open double angle bracket, you look presentable, Master. Close double angle bracket." "Glad to have your approval," I replied with a quiet smile as I stepped into the hallway. Yuki was already waiting in the lobby of the guild headquarters, casually dressed as usual, waving at me the moment I appeared. "Morning, Rimuru. Ready for the big day?" I nodded. "More or less. Thanks again for setting this up." He looked around briefly before raising an eyebrow. "Your attendant isn't with you today?" I gave a small, neutral shrug. "She returned to Tempest. I'll be staying in Ingrasia for a while, so her presence isn't needed." Yuki smiled as if that cleared up everything. "Makes sense. Well then, let's get you over to the academy." We made our way to the Freedom Academy, the walk short and uneventful. Yuki chatted along the way about the students, the curriculum, and a few troublemakers I'd probably meet sooner than later. I listened with polite interest. At the academy, he personally introduced me to several faculty members. Teachers, assistants, a few guards, and admin staff all seemed competent enough, if a bit too curious about me. We moved through the formalities quickly. I handed over the documents confirming my appointment, and the administrative director signed off with little ceremony. Everything was officially in place now. Yuki grinned as we stepped out of the faculty office. "You're all set. You'll start teaching tomorrow, but for now, enjoy a bit of peace. As promised, we've got a staff dormitory room cleaned up for you. Comes with 3 meals a day and 10 silver coins in wages." I nodded, my expression neutral. "Thanks. I'll go check it out, then." Sure thing, let me know if you need anything. With that, he left the school building, hands in his coat pockets. CL's voice echoed quietly in my mind as I walked. Open double angle bracket. Everything went according to plan. Close double angle bracket. Yeah, I replied mentally, eyes narrowing slightly. And now we wait. If he really sees an opportunity, he'll make his move soon. Yuki is probably thinking I am alone now. No more attendant, no backup. Just me. But CL was still with me, always. Let's play along, until he shows his hand. After the formalities, I was shown to the staff dormitory, a simple but comfortable room prepared for me. The space was modest, with a neatly made bed, a small desk, and a window overlooking the bustling city streets of Ingrasia. It wasn't much, but it would do for now. I changed into my night clothes while still keeping the deep blue coat nearby for when I needed to wear it. The quietness of the room contrasted with the busy day ahead. A quiet shimmer of light filled the room. CL emerged, graceful as ever, dressed in her usual night clothes. Looks like this is home for now, I said, brushing a bit of dust off the windowsill. CL stepped closer, her voice playful but tender. Then I will take care of you here, like your housewife. I smiled, used to her gentle teasing. You've already got that job locked down. She grinned softly. Good, because I plan to keep it. I reached out and took her hand. Then I'm counting on you, my wife. Her fingers curled around mine with a rare, genuine smile. Always, my beloved wife. I eased myself down onto the bed, the weight of the day starting to lift. Tomorrow's the real start. Let's see what's ahead. CL settled beside me, calm and steady. I'll be with you, always. As we drew closer, I rested my head against her shoulder. The quiet comfort between us was a gentle reminder that no matter what challenges awaited, we faced them together. Slowly, sleep wrapped around us, soft and sure, as we drifted off in each other's embrace. The next day, the soft morning light slipped through the curtains as I slowly opened my eyes, still resting against CL's side. She lay beside me, calm and steady as always. I shifted gently and leaned over to press a gentle kiss on her lips. Morning. CL smiled softly, returning the kiss before whispering, Morning, master. I smiled back, the familiar warmth settling in me. I should get ready. Today's my first day teaching. Without saying anything, CL moved behind me and began brushing my hair. Her fingers were deft, familiar, and gentle. You really enjoy taking care of me, huh? I asked, meeting her eyes in the mirror. She tilted her head playfully. Naturally, it's what a proper wife does. I blinked, ears warming. You're going to get me flustered before class starts. After changing into the instructor uniform, a deep blue coat with silver trim along the cuffs, I made my way to the door, adjusting the hem slightly. Just before I stepped out, CL reached forward and kissed my cheek. Take care of yourself, my wife. I'll miss you. I paused, blushing. You're still coming with me, remember? Inside, she gave a soft laugh and smiled warmly. Then, without another word, her form dissolved in a shimmer of light. I touched the spot on my cheek where she kissed me, lips curving into a smile. All right, time to meet the kids. It was my first official day on the job. After a few polite greetings and the usual welcome formalities, I found myself receiving some advice from the academy's vice principal. Standard stuff, really, though delivered with a healthy dose of caution. Freedom Academy, as it turned out, wasn't just some ordinary school. It doubled as a kind of prep ground for future guild members. Students weren't just studying textbooks, they chose specialized departments, balancing classroom lectures with practical, on-the-ground training. There were courses in magic, monster biology, combat techniques, survival, you name it. In a way, it felt a little like the universities from my previous life. Structured freedom, but with a strong combat-ready slant. My role, however, was a bit unique. Rather than teaching one of the standard courses, I'd been assigned a particular group. An infamous one, even. The so-called S-class. According to the vice principal, it was a group of students considered either incredibly gifted or incredibly problematic. Or both. Ever since their previous advisor, none other than Shizu Izawa herself, left due to personal reasons, the class had been without guidance, apparently running wild without any real supervision. And now here I was, handed the reins. Shizu. So she really taught here, huh? The conqueror of flames. A true hero. Just thinking about it made my chest tighten a little. I admired her, and now, I'd be stepping into her shoes. That was a lot to live up to. I sighed to myself, straightening my jacket. Guess I'd better get used to being compared to her all the time from now on. Today was my first day teaching. I stood in front of the classroom door, taking a deep breath to steady my nerves. From within, Ciel's calm voice echoed softly in my mind, "Best of luck, master. You'll do great." I smiled quietly and replied, "Thanks, Ciel. I'll give it my all." With that, I pushed the door open and stepped inside only to be met immediately by a flaming sword swinging toward me. I moved with grace, sidestepping the fiery blade just in time. The children cheered loudly, their energy fierce and unrelenting. "Sweet, nice one, Ken," one shouted. "Is that your finisher? It's all done now," another yelled. "Kinda weak in the end." "It didn't even land," came a third voice. They paid me no mind, their focus entirely on their play fighting. I realized quickly, to them, I wasn't their teacher yet, I was just an obstacle in their game. I cleared my throat gently. "Alright, everyone, let's settle down for a moment. I'm your instructor starting today." One of the kids pointed at me, eyes wide. "You look like Shizu-sensei." A few others nodded, whispering among themselves. I gave a gentle smile. "I'm Rimuru Tempest, your new instructor." Before me sat 5 children, the summons Yuki had gathered from various nations. They were Kenya Masaki, a 10-year-old boy. Ryota Sakaguchi, also 10. Gail Gibson, 11. Alice Rondo, 9. And Chloe Aubert, 10. Though still grade school age, it was clear they packed a serious punch. With Shizu having trained them, I knew going easy might only put me at risk. Honestly, I hadn't expected this. I thought they'd be a bit more obedient. As their cold, hostile gazes met mine, I felt a sharp pang of discouragement, my first real sting of doubt in quite some time. I called out each name, glancing down at the files I'd grabbed from the staff room. No response. Well, I definitely needed some kind of reaction if I was going to get anywhere with this group. Guess it was time to call in my trusty assistant. "Please give me a reply when I call your name," I said gently. Kenya was the first to break the silence, his voice shaky and tearful. "Hey, what's that dog? Is that a wolf? Get it out of here." "Ken, are you okay?" I asked, concerned. "Gee, get away from me. This is crazy," he stammered. I'll behave, I'll behave," he blurted out. Then came a deep, commanding voice. "I am Ranga, neither dog nor wolf. My master demands a reply, child. Will you follow the order, or?" Ranga was an instant hit. Watching him playfully interact with the kids was honestly heartwarming. "All right, okay," Kenya shouted back, tears welling in his eyes at the stern warning. Good boy. He might not have liked it, but some discipline was exactly what this room needed. "There you go, children must do as they're told." I smiled, feeling a bit more hopeful as I proceeded with my roll call. "Okay, then, I suppose you've all got something you'd like to say to me," I said with a cheerful smile, folding my arms as I faced the 5 wary students. "So how about we have a little test?" Alice immediately puffed out her cheeks. "Hey, why's it gotta be that? A test?" Ryota blinked and glanced at the boy next to him. "Bleh," Kenya stuck out his tongue. "Lame, I hate tests. This is all too sudden," Gale added in a matter-of-fact tone, adjusting his stance like he was trying to look smarter than he was. "I demand an explanation." "I hate tests," Chloe repeated quietly, pouting with the faintest scowl. I chuckled to myself. Not exactly the warm welcome I hoped for, but hey, at least they were vocal. That was something. All right, just calm down," I said, raising both hands in mock surrender. "I called it a test, but really, it's more of a fun game for you all to play. And if you don't like it, you can complain about it as much as you want." The kids exchanged glances as I continued. "So here's the deal, you'll each take turns fighting me in mock combat. The rules are simple: attack me with everything you've got. If you can beat me, it's over. But if I can dodge your attacks for 10 minutes, I win." "Easy, right? That's it?" Kenya asked skeptically. "Yep, easy, right? 10 minutes?" Chloe asked softly. "Hey, I'll spot you guys an hour each if you want," I teased. "Ha ha ha, if you don't sick that dog on me, I don't even need 10. Kenya laughed. "Great, I promise I won't do that, okay? But it's one at a time for you guys, too. No helping out your classmates, all right?" "Okay," said Alice. "Sure," added Gale with a shrug. "I'll totally win if that dog ain't in it," Kenya declared again with a grin. "I just want to read some books." Chloe mumbled. "So where are we doing this?" Ryota asked, already bouncing on his heels. The gymnasium ought to work, I suppose." Do you all understand the rules? You can figure out the turn order on the way there. They all nodded, some confidently, some less so, and off we went. Dash dash dash. The mock battles were spirited, if a bit chaotic. One after another, the kids gave it their all. Blazing swords, wild charges, even a few clever traps, but I danced around it all with ease. No real damage, just bruised pride and a few frustrated groans. In the end, none of them managed to land a solid hit. I didn't even break a sweat. But rather than discouraging them, it only made them more determined and, weirdly, a little less hostile. Progress, I'd say. Wow, that new instructor is incredible. Did you see how easily she dodged everything? She looked so graceful, like she was dancing between their attacks. I couldn't even keep track. I heard she's a guest teacher sent directly by the guild. She might be stronger than she looks. Stronger. I wouldn't be surprised if she's on par with an A- rank adventurer or more. And, didn't she kind of remind you of Shizu-sensei? Yeah, not just the strength, but something about her presence. With that kind of buzz spreading through the watching staff and older students, I had a feeling my reputation around the school was now firmly established. I didn't exactly want to show off, but the kids' antics left me with little choice. At least now they'd take me seriously. As for the 5 of them, they were powerful, yes, but their skills felt oddly scattered. Sloppy in parts, improvised in others. If I had to guess, it wasn't because they'd been guided toward these abilities, it felt more like they picked up anything they could while trying to imitate Shizu's fighting style. I sighed mentally. That kind of patchwork growth couldn't last. If I didn't step in and steer them properly, their magicals would burn out long before they grew up. And I couldn't let that happen. They sat quietly now. I could feel it, their guard was lowered, just a little. The initial hostility had faded, replaced by something closer to curiosity. Maybe even trust. That was one small victory. We needed to connect, heart to heart, or they'd never truly listen. And now, even if I had to force that connection a little, it was finally there. Hey, Alice said hesitantly, her voice softer. You, kind of remind me of Miss Shizu. I smiled gently at her. She's important to me. She entrusted something to me. Reaching to my side, I concentrated briefly and pulled something from within my stomach, a mask, the one Shizu once wore. I held it carefully in my hands as I spoke. This was hers. She gave it to me, and when I accepted it, I also agreed to look after all of you. Alice's eyes widened. That's Miss Shizu's mask. I nodded once. She stared at it, then met my eyes and gave a slow, thoughtful nod. Then I believe you. Me too, Chloe murmured. I believed in you from the beginning, ya know. Ryota added, crossing his arms with a proud little grin. Kenya frowned. Oh, come on, guys. But Gale gave him a light jab with his elbow. She's telling the truth. We can trust her. TCH. Fine, I guess I'll give you a chance. I smiled, lowering the mask. That was enough for now. They'd accepted me not just as someone who reminded them of their old teacher, but as someone who might become their new one. And that was a start. To be continued.